Yo, hello, and it's Chima Bigotin here again, and I just want to take a step further from our last video. So, in our last video, we spoke about commitment being one of the magical things that makes people follow through on things. And someone asked me, so how do I get committed? And that's the whole essence of this video, or the series of videos after this. The major thing I want to talk about is failure management. Indeed, someone who succeeds and someone who fails often tow the same path, especially as regards to a particular goal. However, how those two people react to different things that they encounter is what makes the difference. So I'm going to read out a quote right now from Brian Tracy. He wrote it in his book, The Focal Point. It says, anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first. Anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first. And this is so important. This is so key. Many times we give other people the benefit of doubt at our own detriment, in the sense that we don't give ourselves as much leverage or as much room to grow as that. I will give an example also, citing the Body Book Club. And if you don't know what the Body Book Club is, Body Book Club is an avenue. It's the baby of the startup that we're working on right now. It is that avenue that helps people to read daily and consistently. And it's a step at a time. As the administrator right now, I've seen people fall off after reading, after dropping their first review and their second review. We just realize that they fall off and they never review anymore. They just don't know how to face failure. They just don't know how to deal with the fact that I have reviewed the introductory part, I have reviewed the first chapter, but I did not review the second chapter on the third day. And so, what's there? I don't think I can continue. Oh, other people have reviewed chapter 2 yesterday. I don't think I can continue. No, 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 no. That is not how to manage failure, as it were. In Atomic Habits, one of the things that James Clear says is that whenever you miss a day, you are supposed to start another streak. And this is for people who have had issues with consistency, people who have had issues with commitment. I tell you, there's almost nobody on the face of the earth that have decided to do something and have done it religiously every day for several years. There are some days, there are just some of those days that we cannot meet up. There are just some of those days, for whatever reason, even if it is the most flimsy reason or the most unforgivable reason, like laziness, as some people say, there are some days that we just don't, no matter how consistent the person is, there are some days that we just don't, especially at the beginning, we just don't follow through. And what separates winners and losers at this particular juncture, because all of us have those days, especially when we are beginning, is the fact that winners start their next streak the next day. Winners continue the next day after skipping a whole day, after spoiling their record, after messing up their how many day streak. They pick it up the next day, the very next day. They pick it up and they do what they are supposed to do. This is the first rule of commitment. Commitment is saying, I commit, I choose to keep my word, and I choose to do this every single day, or I choose to do this at so and so period. And in the days, in the times where I'm not even able to keep my word, I'm able to forgive myself and start again. I'm able to forgive myself and continue. A lot of us forgive our loved ones, a lot of us forgive the people around us, but we just do not forgive ourselves at all. Again, Brian Tracy says anything that is worth doing poorly at first. You have to give yourself latitude to fail. I mean, you haven't read consistently in the past, perhaps 2 years, perhaps 3 years, or since you left school. And here you are with a certain Chima and a certain Body Book Club saying, you know what? You can read and we want you to meet this target. We want you to read and review every day. However, you have not done this for a long time. The best thing that you can do to yourself from the get-go is to get to the point where you can begin to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself in advance. In fact, part of your commitment statement should be, you know what, I know that there may be days when I wouldn't be able to read or I wouldn't be able to meet up. However, I also commit to myself that the very next day I would be able to pick my bum bum off the ground and get back to work and get back to reading and get back to reviewing. That is one of the things that separates the people who finish that particular batch and those who drop out at the end of the day. It is a thing of commitment, and one of the major rules of commitment is forgiveness. The truth is, as I found, and trust me, for someone who is greatly misunderstood, you can't take this from me, you can take it to the bank. For someone who has issues with a lot of people who have had issues in the past with a lot of people, you can take it to the bank. You would find forgiveness a mechanical thing. You would find it a very difficult thing to do to others and for others when you don't do it for yourself and you don't do it to yourself. You have to learn to train your forgiveness skills by forgiving yourself. No matter how much you mess up, no matter how much you do things that you think you are supposed to have passed, no matter how much you act out of character, you have to be one of the few people on this planet Earth that will wake up every day, release and forgive every single person that has wronged them, and at the same time release and forgive yourself also whenever you encounter yourself acting out of script, acting out of character, not keeping to your word and keeping to your promise. You have to be that person that will wake up and say, you know what, I messed up, but this is not the end of life. My commitment is way greater. My commitment is far greater than this particular mess up. My commitment, the goal is the consistency of my character. The goal is the consistency of my character. So my forgiveness, I have to extend forgiveness also to me, and I have to get back to being consistent with the character that I want to portray. There's one last thing I want to just explain to us. There's one last thing that I hope can drive this forgiveness thing home once and for all. It is simply that the summary of our lives will not have all the little details. The summary of our lives would have our greatest achievements or our greatest heinous crime or our greatest disadvantage. The summary of our life is the greatest feat that we have had. I tell you, someone who is convicted for life for perhaps a series of murders and the person is remanded in prison for life. Imagine with me that the person wakes up and says, you know what, for the rest of my days I know I'm going to be behind bars, but one of the things I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start talking to young boys and young girls that have issues with rage or whatever it is that have drove them into murder. I'm going to begin to speak, including to my prisoners here. I'm going to begin to talk to them and begin to dissuade them from crime. This may sound hypothetical, it may sound foolish. Yes, the person may get angry at some point in time, the person may not even know how to speak, but if they wake up every day and they can't get a warden to talk to, they can't get a prisoner to talk to, of course they are feared, they have a reputation, they can get people to talk to and get them to reassess their choices. If it were anger, if it was trauma, if it was whatever that led that person into this particular activity of serial murder or this particular behavior of serial murder, if they can own that and begin to explain, tell the story from their point of view, and they begin to tell people and show them the flip side of what it is, if they can say, you know what, I messed up, I'm most probably going to be behind bars for the rest of my life, but you have a choice, you can still make it right, you don't need to do this. This is my example, this is my experience, and I want you to learn from experience, especially my experience. You don't need to go through what I've gone through. At the end of the day, I tell you, upon that person's passing, people will speak kindly and lightly to the person's existence, not just as a serial murderer, but as a particular person who inspired a totally new generation, or even if it's one, or even if it's two, or even if it's three lives the person was able to save because of the person's story and the person's ability to tell their story in such a way that can positively affect a person's life. That is what will be on their epitaph. That is what they will most probably be remembered for. I know that you most probably watching this video, you are not a serial murderer. I know that a lot of us, it's not yet that bad for us. So what is the challenge? What is the major challenge? What is that is stopping us from owning our narratives right now and beginning to get committed and consistent to the things that we want in the long run. It's simply that the major thing that stops us is because we cannot forgive ourselves, is because we don't think that we deserve mercy. It's because we don't think that we deserve a clean slate. It's because we don't think that we can start again. I tell you, whether you are taking the Border Book Club, whether you are coming up with us, whether you are doing anything, whether you want to get experience a better marriage or experience better relationships with people or change your financial life, whatever it is, whatever it is that you want to think, whether it is that you want to renew your mind, you want to change, you want to develop better habits, whatever it is, if you do not forgive yourself, if you do not make a habit of forgiving yourself, if you cannot pick yourself up from the, in Nigeria we call it poto poto, from the mud, if you cannot pick yourself up from the mud, I doubt you will make enough progress. So I hope you make a commitment to me today to learn to forgive yourself. You can learn from failure. You can grow from failure to success. God bless you.